Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Lori here from Laws Communications. Happy to have you on the call this morning. I think you're in for a treat. I think you're going to really enjoy our presenter today. First, I want to mention that our sponsor, our very generous sponsor for the SMILE conference is Scope Now. And rather than read the script again, I just want to point out to you at the bottom of the screen here is a link where you can try Scope Now for free. So be sure to take advantage of that. And with that, I will introduce our speaker. Thorir Ingvarsson is a chief inspector for the Reykjavik Metropolitan Police. He leads the service department where e-services and social media are managed. Thorir has been a police officer since 2000, serving as a detective inspector in a violent offenses unit. Thorir specialized in child and vulnerable witness interviewing, subsequently serving in a specialized sexual offenses division. There, his main focus was on investigation of sexual offenses against children. In 2010, Thorir began work on a project of using social media websites such as Facebook and Twitter, etc., in policing. The RMP Facebook site and other social media have grown tremendously in traffic, and the RMP social media project has been recognized both in Iceland and abroad, receiving both awards and recognitions. And in fact, the RMP received the Connected Cops Award given out by Laws Communications for excellence in the use of social media policing for a large police agency. So with that, I would invite Thorir to share his screen.
So I'll start sharing my screen. So thank you so much, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. As Lori said, she went over what I've been doing for the last 20 years pretty well, and it's been very, very interesting. And one of the things that I love about being in the police is the opportunities we have to kind of to change with the landscape and do different stuff and develop what we're doing. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, first of all, a little bit how we got here and what we've been doing up till this point now. And then I'm going to talk to you about what we're working on now with e-services and all of that. And then for the rest, I'll take questions if there are any and see if we can address some of those. So the topic of this is a journey starts with one step is kind of what I've been thinking is that it is very, very easy not to get started with all sorts of projects because they just seem so overwhelming. And I think that we at the Reykjavik the Reykjavik Metropolitan Police, we've been fortunate enough to kind of stop waiting for a huge scheme to kind of get us digitalized and just started doing stuff, trying out and experimenting and seeing what we could do to better serve our community. So we've been doing all sorts of interesting stuff now. And it's been very, very entertaining. And I think one of the things that we've been fortunate enough to do is kind of use humor with alongside all of the stuff that we've been doing and kind of also establishing a little bit of a presence of the police on the Icelandic social web. But just to start out, I want to tell you a little bit about the Icelandic police. I think by all standards, we are a very, very small police force. There are about 650 police officers working in the country, about half of which are working for the Reykjavik Metropolitan Police. And we have 9 policing districts. So this is the country of Iceland, and we are at the bottom left edge of the country. And that's where kind of 2/3 of the population live. And we have the smallest, you could say the second smallest policing district in square kilometers, but we have about 2/3 of the population. And all of the other policing districts, they are much, much, much bigger in size, but they have fewer people and they have very different things going on. And some of them are very small, only have 9, I think one of them only has 9 employees. Most of them have between 30 and 60 employees, somewhere in that area. But us, the Reykjavik Metropolitan Police, we have 222,000 inhabitants, which probably doesn't sound a lot from where most people are coming from. But we serve 7 municipalities, and we cover about 1,000 square kilometers, which is pretty small for us. Most of them are much bigger. And we have, I think, in 2018 we had 305 police officers working for us, and then about 93 civilian staff members. And for us, we have 4 police stations. We have the main police station in the center of town, and then we have 3 other police stations. And even between them, they are very different, because I mean, in police station 1, they'll be dealing with all sorts of inner city problems most of the time. But in police station 4, they have crampons and ice axes in their cars, because we have a mountain range just near the city. So we kind of, even for a small unit like ours, we still have a lot of stuff going on, and just the requirements between one of the police station to another are pretty different. So we have to do a lot of things, and that's kind of, I think that's pretty interesting, and I think that's one of the character traits for the Icelanders as a whole, and certainly the police, is that we kind of have to be jacks of all trades. We have to do a lot of stuff and kind of get used to doing all sorts of things. But how did we get to here, and what is here? I mean, what I'm going to tell you about is of course the e-services project that I am working on now. But how did we get here? So in 2010, we started using social media, and that was, I think, one of the biggest steps, because it, in a sense, freed us from the mindset of having to have a huge scale project working across the country and all of that. But it was kind of the first project where we had to kind of invent it as we got along, because we didn't have a lot of role models to kind of look towards. There were very few on the social web at that time. And so it gave us the opportunity to kind of look to see how can we serve the public with new means. And it was very, very relevant in 2010, because we had gone through a financial collapse. We were very, very broke at that time. And I think that lack of money kind of gave us the courage to say, well, we have to do something new, and we have to try things out and see how it works. And the social media project was fortunately very, very well received. We have now over 90,000 subscribers on our Facebook site, which is, I think, pretty impressive, remembering that we only serve 220,000 inhabitants. And our Instagram has 186,000 subscribers, which I think is always very, very funny, because what happened with the Instagram account was that it was picked up by a group in Russia, and it was kind of propagated through all these underground websites in Russia, saying that it was a very kind of a humane way of policing and portraying police. So we got tens of thousands of followers through that, and then the ball kind of started rolling. So we started picking up subscribers from all around the world. And that is kind of the other thing, is that that all these images, they tell a huge story. So I think that has been very, very entertaining. But we also run our Twitter and Pinterest and our YouTube site, and then we have a fairly new website, which I'll show you a little bit later on. And I'll also talk about Pinterest and the other. But Facebook, of course, I think most of you know pretty well. We're reaching about 90,000 subscribers weekly. I mean, those are kind of the numbers that we see in our reach. And we get a pretty high amount of messaging. And I think that the messaging really has lowered the threshold of people being able to contact the police. So that, and the reason why I'm going a little bit through this is that that we're trying to, I mean, the lessons learned with the social media project was that people really want to contact the police. They want to be they want to be able to speak to the police. They want to be able to look for advice, guidance, and all of that. And they want service. They want services from the police. And I think the messaging, which started, of course, with Facebook in 2012, was a huge step in kind of getting people ready to be able to have kind of a low threshold to be able to have a conversation with the police. And with our Instagram, we're getting 100,000 reached, which I think is of course goes up and down, but it's very nice. Our Twitter feed, unfortunately, is linked to the Facebook site. So we kind of, and that's one of the things that we kind of have, because we're jacks of all trades, we don't have the resources to kind of go and kind of maintain some of these sites as much as we could. But Twitter, of course, is not huge in Iceland and is not huge in most of Europe. So I think there's a little bit of a difference there. But we also use Pinterest, which I think is very interesting. And I'll show you that a little bit later on because I have a screenshot of that. But we've also been trying out new stuff, which is, this is a neighborhood police officer in one of our police stations, which you see in the background there. And this is Atta, her name is Artfrúður, and she is a sergeant who's been with us for almost 20 years, or more than 20 years now, I think. And she has started a Facebook site or Facebook profile page for herself, which she uses to be able to speak to the community groups and kind of get information across to and from the police. This is another project which is pretty similar. This is a secondary Instagram site, which is run by Samfélagslöggur, which you see at the top, which is kind of an Icelandic translation of community policing. And they're also using, I mean, because they can only see so many kids and so many people in every outing, but they're using the social media to kind of expand their outreach. So it's a little bit like having a bigger megaphone. But the Pinterest site, which I told you a little bit about, is a site where we used to be able to post all of our lost and found. And this is also another type of us trying to be creative, because just setting up a website to be able to post lost and found is very, very expensive. But we've been able to kind of integrate Pinterest into that role. And Pinterest is now linked to the main website. So when you go onto the main website, you'll get all these pictures and more, but they're actually being harvested out of our Pinterest site. We'll upload all of the lost and found into Pinterest, and then our main website will get it from there. So so the idea here is that we've been trying to kind of experiment with all these things. We've also experimented with things that really, really didn't go anywhere, like Google Plus, and we took our share of trying to broadcast things with, I think it was called Livestream, and quite a few other websites, which kind of didn't do much, but they got us a little bit thinking of what can we do, how can we use these things, and what are the potential. So, and that kind of brings us to e-services, and what are e-services? I think e-services, as a short, are all of these electronic services, and I think they also include social media. But there are these e-services where people can log online and they can get some sort of assistance. And it can be very, very simple. It can be reading stuff of the main website, but it can also be pretty serious stuff and complex things like crime reporting online, which then is transferred to a person that takes all the information, puts it into the filing system or the policing information system, and then gets it across to the relevant detectives or whatever. So e-services, I think they cover quite a wide array of services. And I wanted to see for all of you out there, because I have a little bit of a poll going on. So I wanted to see if we could see how many of you are using e-services, and kind of what's your department's take on all of that. We'll give it a few moments and see what's.
Apologies for me if that popped up earlier. It wasn't me doing that.
That's perfect. It was perfect timing.
I relaunched it now. So if you all would go ahead and answer that poll, it would be. So far, people are saying they already do this. But only about half of people have voted. What's interesting too is when it accidentally launched earlier, the answers were different.
Oh yeah?
Alrighty.
That's polling for you.
So 100% of the people on this call are saying that they're all in.
Okay. Okay. It's very interesting. And I think that's very interesting, seeing that, can I drag this, there we go. And I think that's very interesting because I've been trying to kind of find information on all these e-services, and I can kind of tell you that there's not a lot of information, and there's even less when it comes to kind of services that we can buy and integrate into what we're doing, because a lot of the times we're working with kind of specialized computer systems, and some of them are obviously not perfectly up to date in the newest specs. So it has been very, very interesting. But so first of all, and I think this is kind of the picture that I'm a little bit fond of, because this is kind of the first step in our e-services journey when it comes to kind of the self-service and all these electronic forms and all of that, if you take aside the very basic stuff and the social media. So I think that the way Icelanders operate is I think we're the total opposite of if we could go for the stereotype of the Germans, where you have a lot of planning. It's very well thought out. People don't like to go into areas which are kind of where they haven't thought everything out. It's all very kind of meticulously planned, and that is definitely not the Icelandic way of doing things. We're much more into the small step approach, where we don't plan too much, we try out things, and we kind of see if we can get away with it, which I think is also a lot more fun, because as everybody knows, planning is very good, but it's not a lot of fun. It's much more fun to do stuff. So I think that's kind of one of the premises, is how Icelanders operate. And I think that the small step approach has always been a lot closer to kind of our nature of handling things. So what we did, just to begin with, because we had gone through the process of kind of asking a lot of institutions on, okay, how can we automate this stuff, and how can we get people to be able to press charges for crimes online and all that stuff. And we weren't getting a lot of stuff. So we thought, well, okay, first of all, we need to test it out. We need to have a proof of concept. So we decided to ask the IT department at our department to put up a computer in the front lobby. And we would ask for a very, very simple form where you could press charges for bicycle theft. And the idea behind that was that it was very, very simple. We have as I think with most departments, there's quite a lot of bicycles that are stolen. And just reading through all of these forms, which were up to that point all handwritten, was kind of a chore. So we said, well, okay, we'd like to have a form where you could be at your home and you could have an electronic signature and you could all do all of that stuff. Everything would be electronically transferred into the policing system where we would take it and investigate or don't investigate. But that just wasn't the case. We weren't getting there. So we said, okay, we'll try out getting the guy who writes writes or creates the website to create a very simple WordPress form. WordPress is one of the web tools that are used to run the web page. And we'll put a computer in the lobby and we'll see how it works. And the funny thing was that one of the biggest problems with getting that across was the fear of a few people that the computer might be damaged, that somebody might damage the computer. So we were kind of dealing with fears that I didn't think actually mattered. There was no money invested in the computer. The screen was actually an old screen that was going to be tossed out. It was one keyboard and a mouse. So we didn't have anything substantial to lose. But the funny thing is that even though this was their major fear, was that at no point has no computer been damaged in the lobby. So what I'm saying here is that sometimes it's just the people are kind of creating hurdles which aren't really hurdles. There was actually no fear of anything being damaged there, but it was just the first step into trying if that would actually work. So, and that was, I think that was in 2014 that we were testing out. But now we've gone through and we tested this for a few years, and we upgraded the kiosks that are in the lobbies, and we've gone through with this. And now we've come to a point, and it's actually only after we kind of look in the rearview mirror to see where we are, that we're at a point where we have electronic forms with electronic signatures, and we have simpler electronic forms for the kiosks. So if you go into the police station and you fill out the same form as you could do in your home, it doesn't get electronically signed. You would have to sign it yourself. But if you do it from the comfort of your home, everything gets signed and we receive it digitally. And up to that point and up till now, we're only doing minor reports. So we're doing crime reports where there essentially is no suspect. So what I mean by that is, in my opinion, just letting this handle the minor cases makes it so much easier for people to digest and kind of go through the change. Because with the minor cases, I mean, there's a big difference in coming in and saying, Joe Davidson stole my bicycle and I would like to press charges, because that's quite serious. You're pressing charges against an individual. But coming in and saying, I lost my bicycle and I think it might have been stolen is much easier to take care of. And a higher volume of those, or a higher percentage of those reports there's not a lot to do. So they essentially get looked over, sent to the insurance company, and then closed down. So we start out with the crime reports where there is no suspect. We've also gone through booking an appointment to press charges, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But the permits are also a huge thing for us, because in Iceland, we have to get a firearms permit. So even if you buy a firearm or you want to have the license to own a firearm, you have to apply for a permit and take a course. And if you want to import fireworks or get a license to work as a doorman, you have to ask for a permit. And all of these things were handwritten forms. So we've changed all of that into e-forms. And if it weren't only for just the ease of understanding what is on the form, that would I think be enough of a benefit in itself. But on the right side, you see one of the forms that we're using, and this one is for a stolen stolen mobile phone. And it's just very simple. It gives you the information to go through. If you have someone that you think might be responsible, you can ask for a time to press charges and meet with a detective. If you don't know who stole it and nothing happened, you'll click yes, I hereby attest that I have no suspect, and then you'll fill out your name, your social security number, your email, so on and so forth, and you'll actually get sent a copy to your email. So you'll get a copy automatically of the report. And this was run up to a point, was run on a kind of a special web page where we directed people where they could look at it. But then, of course, since February this year, we've updated our website, and now you can go into the website itself and you can press on report an offense. That opens up like a little tab, and you can report an offense or you can apply for a permit. And the interesting thing there is that it's been very, very agile. So we've been able to add or remove things depending on what's happening. And I think that's kind of the one of the things that we've been experimenting with and seeing with the COVID era now, is that when we have this plague status, and we're probably in Iceland going for a full lockdown tomorrow or the day after, we're seeing that people are both very, very happy to be able to do things from home, but our staff is also very happy that people don't have to come to the police station. And one of the things that you can do also there is pressing charges. So if you have to come to the police station, you can ask for an appointment. And that was one of the more enjoyable stuff that we did, was we created a small group of people who could actually take both phone calls, emails, or a electronic form, and they would give you an appointment to see a detective. And that gives us much better time control, better prepared both the investigators that are getting the people in, and also after we've been living with COVID, it also gave us the opportunity to change some of these appointments into phone appointments. So people don't have to come to the police station themselves. They can kind of get an appointment, they'll get a phone call, and a lot of the times the phone call will suffice, so they've actually pressed charges. But how are e-services working, and what is kind of the upside to it? What are we getting from it? And I think, and you have to remember now, we're of course a pretty small police force. But I just went through the numbers yesterday, and September 2019 to September 2020, I can see that we booked just under 2,400 incidents that were reported through e-forms in the last 12 months. And we timed the operation, and we can see that we're saving around 7.5 minutes on every form that goes through us. So just taking the time that it takes for someone to get the form when it's handed over, it goes into a tray, it's carried around, somebody has to look at it and decipher what's written on the form. All of that accounts for roughly 7.5 minutes. So by that, just by these 2,400 incidents, we've saved around 40 working days. So we have one extra employee during the summer months just because of this. So we've freed up one employee for 2 months, which I think is huge. So and this is by very, very easy methods. And then we also have around 2,000 permit applications put in the last year. And all of those are much, much easier to take care of. They're much easier to read through, and it also is a much better service for the public. So it has been very, very well received. from the public. But the funny thing is that even though we are a federal police and we have essentially no jurisdiction, even though we have these policing districts all across the country, we did start off with a tad of jurisdiction problems. And those were kind of, this is all good for you guys in the city, but we like to take care of our own stuff. And that was a little bit what we heard in the beginning, especially when we launched our services on the national website. But that very quickly changed after the coronavirus cases started spreading, because at that point, I think most of the officers were very, very happy that they weren't getting people into the police stations. But also, what is very important here is that now it is linked to the police data service. So our main data service, we have one policing data service for the whole country. Everything is linked, so there's no need to type anything in. We import from the form. My staff goes over it. We do the quality control, and we don't need to type again. We just get it booked and then refer to the relevant officer who takes part of it. And that's kind of what I said before. Is we've had a lot of, what has been interesting is the modularity because of COVID. We've also been able to put out forms which are specifically related to COVID, so people can report if there's people breaking quarantine and that sort of stuff. But we also have one project which is crime reporting from companies. And that means that we are testing out where you can actually press charges against an individual. So if you remember previously, I said that most of these forms are setups where you can't press charges against an individual. But we're testing out how does that work if we're working with a control group. And we've started working out with 4 companies that send all of the information electronically. So they can send the charges themselves. They can do the reporting, and they can also send the footage. So if they have CCTV, they'll send all of that electronically, and we'll get it electronically to our detectives also. But that creates kind of a question. How do we investigate? Well, what do we do when there's no stack of papers? Because I think we all know that the stack of papers is kind of it's also kind of a debit and credit tool. We know what is coming in, and we know if the stack of papers is high, that we have a lot of stuff going on. So it has created kind of a little bit of a problem in regards to mentality, because people like to have a piece of paper. They like to hold the piece of paper and take it off to one side when they're done reading it. So it's kind of it does pose questions that we really didn't foresee. So we have to find kind of new pathways and a way of thinking. And remember, there is no endpoint. And what do I mean by that? I mean that digitization is a way of life. So just turning one piece of paper into an electronic form will not digitize the police or change. I mean, that it will not change that someone at some point will ask for a printout of the same form. So people really, really like having that piece of paper. But I think that by digitizing one point after another, I think we'll get to the grand finale of kind of reaching a point where we'll have a digitized investigation process. Another one of our project is My Police. So it's mitt.lögreglan.is. And that is a portal where victims can see where their case is being handled at that point. So they can see what's the case number, who has my case, how long has it been there. But it also serves as kind of an expectation management tool. Because I think as with most people, they know that if they go for if they're ordering from Amazon and they go for standard shipping, they're not going to become mad if the item hasn't been received in 1 week. But if they pay for expediting or overnight shipping, they'll become furious if it's not here in 3 days. So just controlling expectation is a huge deal of making people feel better about the service that the police is offering. And you can see here that this is kind of a bigger screenshot. So my colleague Guðbjörg is logged in here, and you can see that the age, it has been here for 85 days. We've had the case for 85 days. The median age for similar cases is 32 days. So that person might say, well, okay, 85 is much more than 32 days. What's happening? But if we're going the opposite direction and saying, well, it's only been here for a month and it's usually here for 3 months, okay, I'm not going to check again tomorrow. I'll check again in a few weeks. So expectation management is definitely a thing of that, but it also has to do with having a portal where we can send all of the documents and stuff and all of the other stuff that people like to or are entitled to see. And certainly we have had our challenges. It has been a very exciting ride. And I sometimes think that I work for the fire department and not the police, because a lot of my time goes into extinguishing fires. And that's, I think, the truth for many people who are working with creating new pathways and new stuff and changing the way we've done things for a long time. And remembering, I mean, the Icelandic police is over 200 years old. We've had a lot of time to come up with ways of doing things. So we certainly love our paper. And I think one of the first challenges is just the love of paper. We are very used to handling it. We have organizational problems because of where is the stack of papers. So one of the things that I think is very interesting is that we kind of have a dual system where we have a digital policing system, a computer system that handles where every case is. You can see all of the information, you can see all of the reporting and all of the stuff that's been received in that particular case. But at the meantime, we still have a problem of the paper actually being at the same space as the digital case. So it's kind of a digital analog problem. And I hope that the love of paper will kind of go away in the next few years. We'll become better of having a digital case completely. But it also has to do with districts, who gets to do it. And as with most departments, a lot of the times we're just wondering, I mean, who gets to do this? And sometimes we're kind of the older sibling. We're doing a lot of stuff because we are kind of the biggest policing district. And some of the other districts, they go, well, we like our old handwritten forms and we'd like to do it ourselves. But and the other thing is, of course, just to get things going. I mean, a lot of these things are very set in their ways. So we kind of need to light fires under a lot of stuff just to get things going. But as kind of a closing things, I mean, it's not our private matter. Digitize is a way of life. We need this more. We need this more and more facets of the government, and we need to digitize more because we just don't have the resources to keep up this trail of paper, which is getting increasingly hard to manage. So are we there yet? No, we're not there yet, but we're certainly getting there. And I think my major thing, when I look back now, I say small steps are better than no steps at all, because just to get things going and get things moving and testing out stuff, trying out new different ways is going to bring us many tidbits of information, which at some point, and I think we're getting to that point, will create kind of a collage which makes sense. So, thank you. All righty. So, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Thorir.
Do you think?
Very interesting. Certainly not a topic I know a lot about, so I learned something. Since we had just a handful of people answer that question, but all in the affirmative, I'm just wondering if any of you guys would like to comment if you don't have a question on maybe you have a best practice or a lesson learned or anything like that. Does anybody want to chime in? Just go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, I don't think we have any comments, but I just want to say thank you because I do think we had some takeaways there, and that was very interesting. And we'll get this link out to everybody later today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to go over.
Oh, it's so good to see you, and thank you for looking so Nordic.
Thank you.
And you got to come back to the Smile Conference.
Yeah, definitely. It's been way too long since I visited the U.S. I have family in upstate New York.
I know you do. I remember the story. Yeah. So, all right. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for joining us.